The COVID-19 pandemic is changing every aspect of our daily lives. But how is limited human interaction impacting those with special needs? This Autism Awareness Month, we look at how isolation may be affecting those on the autism spectrum.
There's just an enormous need for more inclusion in the workforce, more opportunities for these young adults to get training, but also to receive wages.
You see that transformation where they believe in themselves, and it really opens up the whole idea of hope, possibility, opportunities for whatever they want to do.
And nearly half of 25-year-olds with autism have never held a paying job. We visit some local nonprofits giving these young people the tools they need to gain their independence. That and more. Stay with us as we dive into your South Florida. Hi, I'm Pam Giganti. Welcome to your South Florida. Thank you so very much for joining us. And as you can see, we are doing things a little differently this month in light of the ongoing threat of COVID-19. I am working remotely from my home, just as many of you are doing the same thing throughout our community. This past month, the Your South Florida team has been working very hard to prepare this episode, focusing on employment for young adults on the autism spectrum in honor of Autism Awareness Month. We will still get to that later on in the show, but first, we wanted to take this opportunity to also focus on how this pandemic with self-isolation and changes in routine might be impacting those with autism. Earlier, I had the chance to speak with Jennifer Feinstein, a case manager with UM-NSU CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, to get her take on the situation and give us some tips on how individuals on the spectrum and their families can get through these uncertain times.
Hey, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and especially during these interesting circumstances in which we live right now. We're doing this remotely, so we really appreciate your patience with all of this. Thanks again.
Sure, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this. With this current COVID-19 crisis, people and families have to stay inside. We're told to self-isolate. What kind of effects are these having on people with autism and on their families as well?
Well, in general, people with autism thrive and function their best when they have routine and predictability. So you can just imagine that, we're all feeling the tumult right now and having all of our routines changed. And also predictability is a huge problem right now for all of us. So I think our families are really, really feeling it. We've been getting a lot of calls at UM-CARD about how to manage anxiety, how to help kids understand what's going on, how to, create a new routine for the family and how to deal with it. And so I think that, I think it's safe to say that our families are really feeling the impact and really trying to survive from day to day.
Yeah, and what are some of those methodologies? What is some of your advice to parents about, in these new and interesting circumstances, creating that sense of routine, handling that anxiety? What kinds of methodology are you kind of giving them to help them get through this?
Well, I think first of all, the first step is for everyone, whoever needs to hear this, it's okay. We're going to be okay. And we're all going to get through this. One of the first things I think I would recommend to everyone, especially parents, is take care of yourselves and help yourself manage your own anxiety and stress. So whatever you like to do, whether it's walking outside, doing deep breathing, meditation videos, talking to your friends, taking a moment for yourself to connect with people that make you feel happy, I think that's a really big way to start, is to help your own anxiety. So then what we really recommend is creating a new routine. I know people are very overwhelmed and sometimes it feels difficult to get started. So if you can start simply by making just a schedule for the day. We all have new schedules now. So if you're a parent, especially of small children, you probably want to make a schedule that has pictures on it. So we call that a visual schedule. And when we're helping people with autism, children and adults with autism, having visuals, using visuals, which could mean pictures, it could just mean writing things down, can be very helpful in explaining situations and also minimizing the mental energy that it takes for people to learn. So I would say creating a new routine, even if it's a simple routine, just involving breakfast, doing an activity, lunch. I also would really recommend to families to reach out to us at UM-NSU CARD. You know, we're working remotely, and we're here for advice. We have a lot of resources for visuals and for schedules and ways to explain the virus to individuals with autism. But we're also here just to chat. We can talk by Zoom or we can talk on the phone. So all our services are free. And so we're really here for families too.
That's wonderful. And that's very helpful, no doubt. I think what we've all learned through all of this is how connected we are and how we kind of miss that human contact with people, and just being able to Zoom or FaceTime or reach out to a friend or a family member is really, really helpful just for your mental health as well. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Oh yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Talk about the work. I know you're a case manager at CARD. Kind of talk about, and when we set out to do this program on autism, we were really focusing on adults with autism and employment and the lack thereof. Talk about that and helping young adults with autism get employed. And I know you're the mother of a son with autism who recently just got a job. So talk a little bit about that.
That's true. So my son is 24. He has high functioning autism, and he actually got a job at Baptist Health Systems as a data entry clerk. And they have a wonderful program, an internship for adults with special needs. So he went through that program and now he has a full-time job. So we're super proud of him. But like you said, the unemployment rate among adults with autism is incredibly high. It's around 70 to 80% unemployed. And actually the unemployment rate for all disabilities is around the same numbers. So we don't do a good job in this country helping individuals with disabilities become employed. And it's something that often requires extra support. So like my son did this internship. There are many programs around the country that help support individuals, but really what they're going to need is extra support for the whole, from how to find a job to apply for, how to apply for a job, reading a job listing and understanding, am I qualified? Should I even apply for that job? Through having an interview. An interview is basically a test of your social skills, if you really think about a classic interview. So some of the things we do at CARD is we help teach adults with autism how to do that process, how to go through all of that process. So we do some individual work as well as some groups that helps teach that process. And that is the competitive job process. So that's for, when I'm talking about those groups, it's for our adults who really have a lot of verbal skills. And so they might be able to go through the competitive process. But there are some individuals who need more supported employment. And so there are some programs out there, like the Moreno Foundation is a wonderful program in our community. My son works with them for a job coach as well. Mm-hmm. So the spectrum is broad, and there are a lot of, they need a lot of support.
Yeah. Jennifer, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us via Zoom, and best of luck with all the work that you're doing at UM-NSU CARD.
Thank you.
And we'll have more information on the resources Jennifer mentioned on our Facebook page at Your South FL. And while millions of Americans are now dealing with being out of work due to COVID-19, unemployment has been a long-standing issue for many young adults on the autism spectrum. According to the national nonprofit Autism Speaks, more than half of young adults with autism are unemployed, with about half of 25-year-olds on the spectrum having never held a paying job. Research has also shown that having a job with tasks promotes independence and helps reduce symptoms of autism. But there is help out there for these young adults with places such as Marino Campus, a college established by the Dan Marino Foundation. Moreno Campus is helping young adults with autism and other developmental disabilities to bridge the gap between high school and employment, using the latest technology to help them gain the confidence they need to live an independent life.
My name is Mary Parton. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Dan Marino Foundation. We had begun the Dan Marino Center, which opened in 1998. Today it sees 60,000 visits a year. And as time went on, the people who had been treated there, they were becoming teenagers and young adults transitioning from school. We started to receive calls that they were sitting home, there wasn't a technical school or a post-secondary they could go to. And so right around 2011, we really began to look at, okay, what sort of programs and services could we provide? This is a post-secondary program that was very specific and designed to be a college. When you walk in, you have a student union, you have your bistro, and we mimic to give something that we just couldn't find in South Florida. And the certifications. I never wanted to give away a diploma or a badge. I wanted the same thing that I would go get if I were going into a school. What's available here at the campus is really a holistic approach. And there's the full 16-month program, which there's 10 months of academics and then your internships, and then there's a follow-along of 6 months while someone goes to the job, and then there's a fading way of that. But there's also beginning to be courses that are individual. So they may already be working, but they really want to take and move up in a job or have a different job. And so do you want to come in and take a Microsoft course? Or do you want to come in and get your Safe Serve for hospitality?
Serve the table, yes, Kenny. He asked, are you enjoying your meal, sir? There you go.
And our career department is a major department also, and a big part of the success of the young people here. The average employment for the population we serve is about 13 to 17%, and it has been for the past 2 decades. What could we do to change that? And so then we began to study what are the causes, what are the greatest challenges, one being interviewing for that job. Our young people could never get through the interview. They didn't have any frame of reference for it. And so then I thought, okay, if we build avatars where people could practice, with the avatars, you have 6 different avatars, you have different backgrounds, and 3 different dispositions. So you might meet the employer, potential employer, and they're very, very nice. And then you might meet one that's very neutral, and then you might meet one that's hostile.
Why don't you start by telling me about yourself?
My name is Eric Chevres. I'm 19. I am a student here at Marino Campus.
Thanks for coming in.
That's been a huge piece of the success of them getting that employment. Today we run 78% employment. What you have here is you come here, but not only for the skills for the job itself, but even more importantly, it's the skills, the social skills, the communication skills, the things that are so important in sustaining that employment.
I am Nicole Chevres, and my son is Eric Chevres, who's a student here. Eric had issues with other peers, just socially, not any kind of other issues, but didn't know how to interact with them. Coming to the Dan Marino campus, they've been teaching him slowly how to interact and be more independent and not so clingy to me as his mom. They've kind of slowly, as the months have gone by, have taught him to start to just be more kind of independent on just walking into the school. His interest was computers, and he always loved Apple products, and he's pretty good with his iPad and stuff. So when they offered him the program here to be in the CHN program, they are teaching him how to build and cybersecurity and take apart a computer, put it back together, and it's tweaked his interest. He is more social. He's hung out with some of the kids here off campus. They invite him to do things, and he gets very excited. While he's here, they have clubs on Fridays. He enjoys being with them and doing different things. When they have parties, he involves himself more than what he did before. The resources here are really good. They are very helpful, and they communicate with us, and they try to make sure that they have the independence and they learn what they need to do to live an adulthood life. All the teachers here have been very helpful. He has a lot of medical issues, so he's learned on how to cope with them. One day we won't be here, so he needs to learn to do what he can on his own. We try to let him do as much as he can, including at home, just basic needs, and here, just basic needs of what, going to eat or reading a menu or just, going to work. We hope that he can get a job, an office job, where he can go 9 to 5 like a regular person, be able to do well, and get a paycheck, earn his own money so he knows what he needs to do, and hopefully he'll learn as time progresses, because he needs to be able to figure out how to be on his own.
Many of the students, not only the students, but the families, never ever thought their child would go to college, would go and have that post-secondary experience. So the minute you hit that door, there's hope. And there's belief that your child, who you have struggled for 20 years to be sure that they had all the accommodations and that they would be successful, and they were sitting on the couch 3 months ago because there was nowhere to go. Well, now there is. Take that risk and that hope and know that your child can do it. There is a place, and there is work, and there is life for your young person. You see that transformation where they feel respected, and then they respect themselves and believe in themselves, and it really opens up the whole idea of hope, possibility, opportunities for whatever they want to do. They believe that they can achieve it, and they do.
Great work that they're doing at the Marino Campus. Also, local occupational therapist Vanessa Vila also saw a need to provide opportunities for young adults with autism and other developmental disabilities. She started a nonprofit that's not only providing jobs, but is also brewing kindness in the community.
There's just an enormous need for more inclusion in the workforce, more opportunities for these young adults to get training, but also to receive wages.
Vanessa Vila is the founder of Our Grounds in Kendall. Much more than just a coffee shop, this nonprofit is helping young adults with autism and other developmental disabilities gain vital life skills.
I'm an occupational therapist, so working in the field with transitioning adults, I just realized there was a lack of opportunity for vocational training and employment, so just decided to take it upon myself to just make a little bit more opportunity out there for these young adults that are so deserving of it.
So you decided a coffee shop would be a great way to kind of give them some of those skills. How did you get to that point?
So one of my main things when we started was I want to have a coffee shop that has a great cause, but I also want people to come for the really great coffee. So we decided on a local roaster, Argyle Coffee Roasters. They're a specialty coffee roaster out of Fort Lauderdale, and they've been really great to us. They got us a super automatic machine, and they trained us how to use it, so then I was able to train our baristas how to use the machine as well. A lot of programs do a great job of providing internships, and then they expect them to find other opportunities. So my goal is, if you are having fun here and if you're working here and you like it here, then you can stay as long as you'd like. There's no time frame on the employment opportunity. If they're interested in something else, then I'll definitely help them achieve that goal, whatever their goal may be.
Do you think that businesses and business owners don't necessarily understand the abilities of special needs?
I get that question a lot, right?
Yeah.
But it might just be like an afraid or a stigma is associated to the word disability. That's why I hardly ever use that word, just because there's a lot of stigmas associated to just the word disability in general. Providing inclusion and seeing all these adults just like you and I, because they are. You also see someone that may have a disability here and doing a very great job, then that might be a model. Say like, hey, maybe I should give someone a chance if they walk through the door seeking an opportunity at my place. And I realize that there's still more need for opportunities out there, because I get people trying to apply pretty much on a weekly basis. Unfortunately, right now, we're not there yet, but hopefully soon.
Vanessa currently employs 5 young adults with special needs, like Jenny, who's been working at Our Grounds since they opened last summer.
Hi, welcome to our grounds.
She's just such a hard worker. She gets here without being told what to do. She starts just doing her daily tasks, always has a smile on her face.
Tell us about what you do here at our grounds.
I welcome to the customers and I give them coffee, and I like around here to give them pastries.
And what do you like about working here with Vanessa? Tell me about her.
Vanessa is nice and she's a great boss around here.
She always has a nice attitude about working. The regulars love her. The other staff loves her. She's just a pleasure to work with.
Richard Bard is one of those regulars and sees the value in having our grounds in the community.
They're very friendly and very helpful and greet me, and so I'm glad to see them working, learning, and interacting with people. I hope that others, might see what they can do and give them an opportunity. I enjoy the coffee. It's not just the cause that brings me here, but the coffee and the atmosphere. It's very pleasant.
Brew kindness is our motto, but our regulars brew kindness with us all the time. They're very nice.
And then maybe share your message too, which
Definitely.
is really important, right?
That's how we have gotten to where we are now. Word of mouth and people just promoting us, sharing our story to a friend or a neighbor, and encouraging them to come visit us.
You are an occupational therapist by trade, so obviously you're able to employ a lot of that skill in working with your employees. Talk about some of the changes you've seen in them. I'm sure you've seen them grow in many ways.
The number one thing I would say is confidence. So given the opportunity and then realizing, hey, I am actually able to do my job and I'm doing it pretty well, definitely boosts their self-esteem and confidence, which is really great for me to see. In the beginning, they might have been a little shyer, needing more assistance, and now they're willing to step out of their comfort zone and be more involved and engaged with our customers as well, which is nice to see. Everyone's unique and everyone has unique abilities, but everyone here demonstrates perseverance and hard work, always have a positive attitude, so it's inspiring to me when I get to work with them. The goal is to be able to provide more opportunities, so we get customers buying coffee and we get donations, and we're also able to provide more opportunity like that. So the goal is for our grounds to be successful and continue to generate so that we can have more people walking through the door and more team members receiving wages and giving more people the opportunity to work here.
Incredible work that they are doing at our grounds. And as you can see, having autism doesn't mean a child won't grow up to live a productive, independent life. At age 3, Haley Moss was diagnosed with autism. As a child, she would cry and she would scream and she struggled to communicate. By age 4, with specialized therapy, she finally began to speak. Thanks to early intervention and the support of her parents, Haley says she never saw her autism as a negative, but as something to be celebrated. Now, in her early 20s, Haley is an author, she's an artist, a public speaker, and Florida's first known openly autistic attorney. Earlier, I spoke to Haley about her journey and her mission to give hope to others living on the spectrum.
Hi, Haley. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, especially in these interesting circumstances with coronavirus, and we're all interacting with each other more and more on Zoom. So it's great to have you joining our program.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about the term openly autistic. That's something that is often used before your name. Openly autistic lawyer Haley Moss. Talk about what that means to you.
Absolutely. So to me, being openly autistic is both a celebration and freedom. So a lot of people might not disclose that they have a disability or that they're autistic because there's a fear of stigma and discrimination and just how society views people on the spectrum. So to be open and not be afraid to show who I am and show up as my full self is bold in its own way. And it really does give me the freedom to be myself, and I'm proud to be who I am.
One of the things that's also used to describe you is that you were nonverbal and then you became a lawyer. So there's a lot that happened in between that time. Sort of talk us through what that was like for you as a child and learning that you had autism.
So I don't really remember being a really little kid. I mean, a lot of us don't remember being maybe like 3 or 4 years old, but I do know that I cried and screamed a lot as my only means of communication because I wasn't speaking with my mouth. And I was 3 years old when I was diagnosed with autism. I found out that I was autistic when I was 9 years old. My parents compared it a lot to being like Harry Potter. I was obsessed with Harry Potter books and the movies at the time. And my mom explained it like having magical powers. And we focused on the strengths because every child knows the things that are hard for them or that they're not as great at. So we focused on things that I was really good at or the things that I enjoyed. So I was really passionate about the things that interested me. I was a really creative artist. I loved to write. I was always a good listener. I was really sensitive. So we focused on the things that were good and focused on the strengths. And that was kind of the foundation for self-acceptance that I had growing up.
That's beautiful. That's so important for parents to hear, is focusing on the things that your child is good at. And that's such a positive. Talk about what some of the obstacles, though, have been. I know when you and I have spoken before, you said school wasn't a problem. You did really well in school academically. But what were some of the other obstacles that you had to overcome?
A lot of the things that have been hard for me throughout my entire life have been making and keeping friends. So I think social cues aren't natural to me. So things that most people think are common sense socially aren't common sense to me. That's the best way to explain it. And there's also a very different form of communication that neurotypical people seem to use. So even when it's like, oh, I like your shirt, and you just say thank you, I realize, oh, but how do I keep that conversation going? How do I make this into a friendship, or how do I have a meaningful conversation out of this, for instance? So little tiny things you might not think about. I also struggle a lot with like independent living skills. So things like cleaning my apartment or doing my laundry, but it's not that I don't want to do it. It's that sometimes it's a lot to sort through all the different cleaners or all the different steps to get it done. And it just feels very overwhelming. So things like that I struggle with. And I also struggle with how society perceives people with disabilities and autism particularly. So sometimes society is more disabling than any label itself can be, because people have their prejudices, their attitudes, their stereotypes of who you should be or who they think you are. So that can be a lot harder to overcome than anything else. And that's why I do what I do and try to educate people whenever I have the chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, the majority of young adults on the autism spectrum are unemployed. It's hard for them to find work. You are a working attorney. Talk about how that problem continues to persist, where these young people don't have the opportunity to find jobs, and how we can change all of that. How do we talk to the business community about hiring people on the autism spectrum?
I think the business community needs to follow the lead of focusing on strengths. So we all benefit from working with people who are different than us and moving away from the perceived weaknesses. So there's things that we are taught that are signs that people might not be trustworthy, such as not making eye contact, while for someone on the spectrum, not making eye contact is just a way that they feel comfortable interacting with the world, that it could be physically uncomfortable to look at someone. It's not that you can't trust them. So here's the thing, we all benefit from working with people who are different than us to solve the problems of both today and tomorrow, that we need to understand the value of that. And the problem that I notice a lot is a lot of people are afraid of something they don't know. They're afraid to work with people with disabilities generally because they just don't know what to expect. They're afraid that it might be something different. And once we get past that fear of accommodation or working with something different, great things happen. So accommodations usually aren't expensive. It's usually free or under $500. So it really is a very small investment to be able to have the benefit of working with different kinds of people.
And quickly, you've often used the term neurodiversity. What do you mean by that?
Neurodiversity is the idea that there are different brains out there. So there's different kinds of ways to function and different brain profiles. So we all are neurodiverse from one another, but people who are neurodivergent or a neurodiverse society also includes people who have autism, who have ADHD, Tourette's syndrome, intellectual disabilities, certain psychiatric disabilities as well. So it's really important to understand that we do need all kinds of minds and not just people on the spectrum as different brains.
Yeah. Haley Moss, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We had great guests today. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next time. In the meantime, please stay safe and healthy.